Yeah, what's up? This disciple Marcello Currents reign back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, anti-America all day, anti-telepathy all day, anti-witchcraft all day, anti-gang stalker all day. So this message is part two of voodoo and hoodoo in the African American community, and I had to come back for part two. I mean, I basically delivered the information per se, but I want to get into the wiring, more into the wiring of it. It's gonna be an ongoing campaign through my first campaign of about this child marriage in America. Me being in the prophetic, many other campaigns have been birthed out of that, and one of them is African American voodoo and hoodoo, African American witchcraft, voodoo and hoodoo in the African American community, because many black people are not aware that their own people are using witchcraft. You think, oh, most African Americans got, they got church in their heart. Okay. They got God deep inside. They just trying to serve the Lord the best way they know how. Okay. Meanwhile, in real America, besides the imagery that you have in your mind, they have given themselves over into voodoo or hoodoo. What's most popular is hoodoo. And you might think that I'm doing it for malicious reasons. I'm not doing it for malicious reasons. I'm doing it because it first of all, it opposes my God, first of all. And it is the weapon that is being used against the kingdom of God, besides color. And the people, honestly, that are using hoodoo is black people. People that are using voodoo is black people. Okay, that's just the specifics. And that's what's being used. And that's what I see being used in my environment. Okay, I don't see, a lot of other denominations of witchcraft. What I see a lot of is African American witchcraft and Hispanic and Latino witchcraft. That's what's being used. And I'm sure there's pagan witches and they're trying to do what they can do too. And I'm sure their denominations, white witchcraft is in the mix too. But this is specifically what I've been seeing. I've had one guy since I've been here in New York, and because I have a good heart, he just told me he was a witch. He told me he was a warlock. So he let me know basically what was going on. You know what I'm saying? And he was sent to me, and my heart was so good. And it probably was the anointing on my life, God's presence on my life. He could not tell me. He had to tell me. And I knew anyway, because I could see it on his aura. I could see it around him. You know what I'm saying? God, the Holy Ghost reveals it to you. He'll reveal it to you when someone is working witchcraft. And this is just the silent weapon that they try to use, but it's not effective on a prophet of God. But for people that's in the world, as Christians would say, that's in the world and outside of God's kingdom, you are dinner to people that's witches and warlocks. And especially if they're high ranking, you're absolute dinner, because you don't have the capacity of understanding what's going on around you. And if they're gang stalking you and cursing you along your path, you're not aware of it. You're not aware of their methods and how they navigate. Okay, when you're spiritual and you're unaware, God will begin to send messages like this one to you. He will begin to send other people to you to show you what the main problem is. That's how God is going to show you. But you can't think like these dimwit, dinky Americans. You have to pull your head out the sand and realize most of these people only care about you working. That's all they care about. That's all Americans care about, is you getting out here and being a slave for their workforce. That's all they care about. Do it look like they care about anything else about you? They don't even care if you have enough money in life and live out your dreams and get a big amount of money. They don't care about you getting a big amount of money. They just now raising minimum wage to a reasonable human wage. It should have been like that. It should have been like that 20, 30 years ago. But yeah, here we are, where now minimum wage is now humanly reasonable based on logic and common sense. So they don't care nothing about you doing anything but going out here and working at a workforce. So you're unaware of a whole bunch of stuff, in essence, including how much witchcraft is going on in your community. Okay? And so let me broaden your perspective on it. Okay? Like I said in the other video, it's everybody. It's every walk of life, even children, starting out young, maybe 9, 10, being exposed to sacrificing of animals and rituals, and even being in rituals. You know, children can start out in witchcraft if they're in a witchcraft family. You know, so you can't be blinded there either. As far as children, it could be, especially when they get in their teenage years, now they're practicing it. After about a good 14, you might have a witch or a little warlock on your hands. You know, so that being said, you can't put your guard down for any age group of people, or any type of people for that matter, or anybody with money, or anybody that's homeless. You can't put your guard down for anybody, because you'll say, oh, well, that person's homeless. They're helpless. They're just in need. That might be the very reason they're homeless, because they're witches. They're warlocks, and their life is cursed. It backfired. They did a whole bunch of curses, and it backfired. You don't know. You don't know what they done to bring that on them. They may have done some spiritually dangerous things, and it backfired, and they're now in the streets. And they're more bitter than ever. Bitter enough to curse you. Okay? So you cannot let your guard down for any type of person when it comes to detecting witches and warlocks. No age group either. People, as soon as their kids are walking, they may have them in witchcraft. They may do rituals, and think about it. If their parents, if they are a child of a witch and a warlock, something has been pronounced over that child. It ain't been Christianity. And if they're actively practicing witchcraft, you don't think they did some kind of ritual or some kind of pronouncing over that child? Of course they did. Of course they did. They did some type of pronouncing. That's all you need to know. And so in America, you can't listen. This is a witchcraft community. That's how you need to look at it. I'm just pointing out to you about black people, because in American culture and in black culture, you don't think there's black people do witchcraft. No, that's white people. That's white people that listen to rock and roll. Most black people's perspective is that when it comes to witchcraft, it's white people that listen to rock and roll and death metal and heavy metal. Yeah, them people that listen to death metal, that's the witchcraft people there. You hear that music he listening to? He's a witch. He's a warlock. And some of them are fake anyway. They just shock value rock fans into all kind of shock value stuff. They're not even real witches and warlocks. Many of these suburban white Americans, listen to a whole bunch of rock and roll, they wearing all that stuff as costumes, no different than all these fake thugs rolling around here who are nothing but fake fans of thugs, fans of rappers and gangsters. They ain't no thugs and gangsters. They wearing all that stuff, and you talking about that's a thug. That's a gangster. Well, the last time I checked, a gangster don't want to be detected as a gangster. A thug don't want to be, a criminal don't want to be detected as a criminal. So why they got on all that criminal paraphernalia? Walking around looking like a straight criminal, looking like a straight thug. Last time I checked, real thugs don't want to be detected. Okay. Maybe I just said a mouthful for your coach and all your community. And it's the same thing. It's the same. Listen, it's the same. I'm talking about people that's doing real crimes. I ain't talking about that petty stuff. I'm talking about people doing real crimes. They do not want to be detected. They do not want to walk outside and raise red flags. Well, that looks like the guy that probably was doing that. Do you think he wants to go outside, or he or she wants to go outside looking like a thug after they done a million crimes? You're going to look average every day, but you ain't going to overdo it. Bandanas and all, your pants off your butt and all of this and all. That's what I'm saying. And it's just like that with witchcraft. You got all these rock fans, heavy metal fans, death metal fans, and they walking around with all that black on and black nail polish, and they're just fans of witchcraft. They're fans of real witches and warlocks. They're fake. They're fake witches and warlocks. And you do have real ones that you can't really detect. They look like you. They're glamorous. They look like they're California friendly. They got all the Valley girl talk. Yeah, yeah. We're going to come over there today. Yeah. Why not? Straight up witch. Straight up witch. Cool dude you hang out with. Yeah, man, let's turn up today. Yeah, let's turn up today. Yeah, we're going to have a pool party. Straight up witch. See, what you got to do is if you're older, if you're listening to this message and you're like mid 50s and older, right? What you got to do is refresh, have somebody update you actually on what a witch looks like and what the culture of witches and warlocks is. It's not like, in the 70s and the 60s where they were kind of like in the woods and, they were kind of in these colorful houses, and as far as voodoo goes, and they just was in these isolated houses like a gypsy psychic. That day is over. As far as what witches and warlocks connect to culturally, okay, they still can do that, but they connect to a lot of American culture, and they are involved in a lot of festivities that are normal to you and I. Okay, like pool parties. There's a million witches at a pool party, a million witches and warlocks at a pool party. They do stuff that you do. They go to pool parties, they go to cookouts, they do normal stuff. You have to humanize witches and warlocks in America. I have already done this because I've been around a warlock. I've been around someone who practices witchcraft, right? I've been around that. So I seen how normal that person was. I seen how normal they appeared to be. And so I can't be like everyone else in the dark, or people that's in the dark that think a witch looks a certain way, or they mean mugging everybody, and they come out the woods when the sun goes down. This is how many of you Christians think. And you've been around witches at your job. You've been around warlocks at your job. Your boss might be an undercover warlock. Your boss might be an undercover witch. And you do not know. Me, I don't operate with like, okay, this person seems like a nice person, so they're not a witch or a warlock. That they, of course, they can be nice per se. They can be happy. They can act. They can smile and laugh. As soon as they start smiling and laughing, you deceived. So what you do last night? And I'm looking at you with a straight face. Serve the Lord. That's what I did last night. I went on a fast. I anointed myself and went on a fast. That's what I did. You gullible, you start entertaining witches and warlocks unaware. That's what you're doing. Because you are used to a certain look of a witch. You're used to a certain style of witch or warlock. Okay? In the black community, it's even worse because they can camouflage themselves with rap, hip hop, R&B. They listen to all of that. The young witches and warlocks these days, they listen to pop, rock. What are they supposed to listen to? Think as a human American. All right? See them as a human first and an American second. That's all you got to do. I'm going to say that again. That's the 7th hour. See them as a human first. See them as an American secondly. And then you have brought them down to earth. Not riding on a broom in front of the moon, in front of a full moon, riding on the broom in front of a full moon. That's your picture of them. On the back of some moonlit balcony drinking wine. That's how you think about witches and warlocks. Not saying they can't do that part. But you have these cartoonish imageries in your mind of witchcraft and witches and warlocks. And I gotta dismantle all of that out of your mind before you can really see your enemies. Up to date, African American witches and warlocks look like me and you. They don't wear anything usually abnormal for the most part. They most of them have grown up in American culture, so they still have American desires. They have American cravings for American TV and American culture and American music and American movies, just like you do. When you humanize them, now you're, according to American culture, now you're really on a more expert level already. Okay? Black witches and black warlocks listen to rap, they listen to R&B, they smoke weed, they smoke Black and Miles. They ride around, they go to pool parties, they play spades, they do everything they play dominoes for the West Coast, they do everything you do. They shoot dice probably too. You have to think outside of a certain image and just think, okay, this person is a witch, but is American. This person is a warlock, but is American. Just like you are a Christian, but you are here in America. So that means you can't go buy a robe and look like a disciple, can you? You're not going to do that. You're not going to get sandals and get a robe like a disciple, are you? So you wear basically what killers wear, you wear what criminals wear, you wear what you as a Christian, you wear, for the most part, you wear things that look similar to thugs, gangsters, killers, pimps, and hoes, and everything in between. You look just like everybody else, right? At face value, as a Christian, you look based on your apparel. That's what I'm talking about. Your apparel, your shoes and everything looks basically like the shoes and clothes of killers and pimps and hoes and tricks and everything in between. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with witches and warlocks. They look just like pimps and hoes, wear the same clothes like pimps and hoes, tricks and everything else. That's how you have to see it and understand, and that's how you have to understand this whole situation, because you if you're looking for pointy hats and knee-high boots, someone who almost looks like a neo-Nazi. See, that's what you're used to. The person with the suspenders on, with the green, with the military green pants on, with the suspenders on, that's a witch. Got a bald head. She a girl with a bald head. That's a witch. You even make them look like they almost neo-Nazis. Yeah, you see those high boots she had on with that long jacket? She had a long jacket on with them military green pants on with them high boots. You know the type, you know what I'm talking about. And you think that's the only image of a witch. It can be. Just like thugs do wear certain clothes that look thuggish, certain witches wear certain clothes that look witchy. But then you have thugs that don't look like that. You have some thugs put on a suit. You got some thugs wear a nice sweater and some khakis. They just want to look good. Hey, I want to look good today. I'm getting down for mine, but I want to look good today. And so you can't be naive by appearance when it comes to witches and warlocks. Okay? You can't be naive walking around here. Oh, well, how we know? How you don't know? Okay? How you know? How you don't know that ain't a witch? How you don't know that's not a witch or warlock? That's how you need to think. Because they're just as thick and deep in your community as just any other religion. Just as there are Christians in every neighborhood, there are witches and warlocks in every neighborhood. That's how you got to see it. I got to keep stressing that, because you're thinking they're here and there like the old school, like some witch, one witch in a neighborhood. Oh, you got one or two witches that practice hoodoo. So you thinking, okay, that's just one, it's just a couple witches around here. Not these days. See, the formats have changed as far as, okay, someone who sits, you got one or two type of witches. Those who perform witchcraft single-handedly, and those who practice witchcraft collectively in a coven. So if you have those who practice witchcraft in covens and collectively, put yourself in mind, put that in the mind, put that in your mind as a culture, right? And they are everywhere because they practice witchcraft collectively. In other words, the collective witchcraft community that practice witchcraft collectively are more cultural here in America. So what you got more now is people who practice witchcraft collectively in a coven, or in more just about 13 people or so. So you got a coven that may be up to 13 people. But from my studying of witches, they don't like it to be no more than 13 people that's connected to a practicing coven. So see, I'm no slouch. That's why I know what I'm doing. What we have to do is begin to fast. First of all, what we need to do as American Christians, first thing we have to do is dismantle the American preaching that says For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. That's the first thing you got to do. This thinking this perspective is not biblical. Samson, he fought against flesh and blood and killed 1,000 men. David, anointed by God by the prophet Nathan, from the prophet, who was that? Was that the prophet Nathan? I think so. But the prophet came to the house of Jesse, anointed David as a child, as a young man or a child. So he was a real spiritual person, and then he was put over military. He was put over a real military and he ordered people to fight against flesh and blood. So if God had anointed David, and he did, he sent the prophet to his house. The prophet came to his house, anointed him. So he was a real man of God, ordained, right? Spiritually ordained, right? If we in no case could fight against flesh and blood, meaning human beings, if we could no way war as Christians or as spiritual people against human beings, then David would have been tainted as a servant of God for just being a king over a military. So either it is or it's not acceptable to God, right or wrong. It either is or isn't acceptable to God, right or wrong. There's no play game. There's no halfway play game that a lot of American Christians be playing. You playing a halfway play game when you can look at David and see him ordained as a spiritual person by God, a prophet coming to his house when he was a kid, basically. That's a real spiritual person. David was a real spiritual person. And so if he was spiritually illegal by being over a military, ordering men to fight against flesh and blood, he would have tainted his spiritual position. He only tainted his spiritual position after he put Uzziah in a position in ranks on the front line, equivalent to the front line where he would be killed in war. That's when he tainted his position. When he killed Uzziah for Bathsheba, that's how he tainted his position. Okay? But before that, he was over a whole military. That's fighting against flesh and blood, literally. In fact, that's the most legal way, in the most massive way, if you will, to fight against flesh and blood. That's a 7th hour. That's the most massive way to fight against flesh and blood, is to be over a military. So either it's an acceptable thing or position to God, or it's not. If you're a general and you're ordering men to kill, what is that? So first thing you got to do is understand that it is acceptable to God and it is a position that is not known to American docile community, because you're not used to defending yourself. You're used to the National Guard defending you. You're used to police defending you. Okay, that's what you're used to, and you might be used to local criminals defending you, local thugs and gangsters defending you. Gangs started out in the black community to protect the neighborhoods from racist people. That's how gangs started out, for people that don't know the history. Okay? So you're used to, by history, you're used to guardians. You're used to some type of guardians. And so with that perspective, with that lifestyle and timeline in your history, you could get comfortable with in perspective and think, well, I don't supposed to fight. I don't supposed to fight nobody. And when you hear that scripture and you sitting up there protected by all these guardians, all this time you've been protected by these guardians, and then you encounter this scripture that says we wrestle not against flesh and blood. You encounter that with already being protected by all these guardians. You think, well, I'm supposed to be fighting at all. Because you have not had to defend yourself. You didn't have to. So if you don't have to defend yourself, how easy is it to think you don't have to do it at all? So you can't be slow following me. You can't be slow following me. So now you know. David was in a spiritual position and he was over a military destroying human beings. Okay? You have to now switch that on in your head. Switch, boom. Right? Now, you have to begin to fast against witches and warlocks. That's what you got to do. That's your position. You got to begin to do massive fasting, not one time, not, oh, I'm going to just fast against witches once a year. You have to begin to spiritually campaign as a military against this witchcraft that's going on in your community in America in a massive way. You got to begin to do it. And I know you've been taught as Christians to just be a docile little deer, a little fern. You can't be a fern. I know it looks cute. Everybody would like to just be cute and not fight anybody and just look cute. Right? Unfortunately, we in a world where there's people that's not so cute, and we have to fight them. We have to fight these not so cute people. It's just it's survival, just like a jungle. You can look like a cute little fern and be devoured. Okay? Or you can adapt to the jungle and the environment that you're in, and you can wage war and live peaceful, and then get to the place where you can look like a beautiful fern. But you're not going to be able to do it without war. You're not going to be able to do it without war. People say, war, what is it good for? You want me to tell you what it's good for? It's good for peace. If I wage war, I guarantee you peace is around the corner. If I successfully wage war, peace is not far from my life. That's my logic. That's my logic. Now, illegal wars that rape people's land, and harass people and badger people is a different situation. And that's what you're used to. I'm bringing you back to the foundation of just wars. Just wars that need to be fought. And I need to do a video about this too. Just wars that need to be fought in order to have peace in our community. Okay? Some people are not reasonable. They're not going to live like you live. They're going to live like rabid zombies, and they must be put down like rabid dogs. That's how it is. They act like rabid dogs. We put them down. We put them down. If they act like rabid dogs, we going to put them down. And that's got to be your mentality. You're a spiritual warrior, and up until this point, many of you American Christians, you have been walking around and like, the best thing, the most reflection of you being a soldier is waving some banners in church and throwing your fists up and saying, we're going to fight war. And then you go home and you resemble no type of spiritual warrior at all. That you don't. You have no militant mind. You're not aware of your enemies all around you. You're lost when it comes to your surroundings. You're not aware of enemies, and you do not resemble a spiritual warrior at all. Not to me. So it's all this kind of cartoonish imagery. Your spiritual warfare or your spiritual war position is a cartoonish imagery. That's what it is. I'm showing you real tactics that you have to use against real people. And see, also, your government, your American government has been responsible for making you docile too. Yes, they are. They made you soft. For some indirectly and some directly. Because they handled everything, just like someone who works for another person, or a child that never has to work at all, never has to does anything, people say that child is enabled, right? That's an enabled person. You're enabling that person because you're not teaching them the real world to go out and work on their own and go out into the world on their own. They stay at home with you forever. You are enabling that person from becoming an adult. It's the same thing. It's the same principles when it comes to war in the community. You are so used to not having to fight your own battles as a community, as American community, that when the time has now come where you can't trust the police or the military and the government just lets you go and don't care about you no more, you've been enabled militarily too long. Boy, that's good. Al. That's a 7, Al. You've been enabled militarily speaking, because everybody's been fighting your wars for you. Everybody's been fighting everything for you, and you took it for granted. Many of you. Everybody's been fighting for you. National Guard and all these other people, and even, like I said, even neighborhood thugs. For some of you, unaware, neighborhood thugs have been defending your community, and that's why your children are safe in the ghetto. Boy, that's a 7, Al. Hey, if keeping it 100, if it wasn't for some of the thugs and gangsters, where would your children be? These police only show up when somebody calls them. Okay, they patrol a little bit. Okay, but they ain't able to stop no other criminals from the other side coming over and doing a 187. You know who's defending that? You know who's doing that? The thugs and gangsters in your neighborhood. Okay, so you're used even down to neighborhood. With thugs, you so used to guardians and people guarding you. You either you're aware or you're not aware. But it's happening either way it goes. You're not aware. Some of you are not aware to all degrees. But what has happened to you as an American citizen, you have become so docile and used to everyone protecting you that you're just like a little fern. Now the time has come where God is not protecting America. Oh, that's a 7, Al. God is not defending this no more. God is not defending this no more. You got 50 states with gay marriage. You got 43 states of child marriage. Now you feel no protection, don't you? You don't feel the protection no more, do you? Now all you got left is National Guard and police, which they ain't nothing. Basically, all you got really is National Guard. You ain't got police. You can't trust them. They might shoot you. And so now you're starting to feel, it's starting slowly but surely, and it's starting to dawn on you the need to find spiritual justification for defending yourself. As a Christian, you're looking for spiritual justification now. And now, welcome to my ministry, where I show you exactly the right way of handling this. You got people that are against you. There are witchcraft going on, and the National Guard can't do nothing about it, supposedly. So what are you supposed to do now? Now that the protection is gone from God's kingdom, because God don't bless no mess. God does not bless no mess. You got 50 states of gay marriage. That's just been in law. I'm updating you. It's only been in law 8 years. Okay, so you couldn't have repercussions for something that hasn't happened 8 years prior. You couldn't have repercussions for gay marriages if there was no gay marriage 10 years ago. So what I'm trying to show you is you can only track what is going, how God feels about it in the past 7, 8 years. So let's look at the country 7 years. In the past 7, 8 years, you got COVID-19. You got COVID-19. You got COVID-19 5 years after gay marriage. And so you can't think like a dummy and say, well, the world's just been getting bad on its own. No. There hasn't been gay marriage the whole time. You need to look at what's going to, as a Christian, you need to say, okay, I know this is against God's word. Now let's see what happens. You want me to show you what happened? 5 years later, you had COVID-19. That's what happened. 5 years. Actually, in fact, it wasn't even technically 5 years. It was actually 4 years. 4 years later, technically speaking, you had COVID-19. Now you telling me that's a coincidence? That just happened to happen. After you did something that you never did in this country before, which is have gay marriage in all the whole country, in all 50 states. You telling me that's a coincidence? It's not a coincidence. The protection is off. God don't bless no mess. And you still, as Americans, as Christians, you American Christians still have not come to terms with the fact that God is not with this country anymore. You still haven't come to terms with it. So it's going to take a little more time. That's all. The remnant know. We know. The prophets of God, we know. God is not with this country no more. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That analogy serves perfectly in this situation. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You got 50 states of gay marriage, and you talking about God bless America. You praying for America as Christians to be blessed. You praying and fasting, and you're fasting and praying amiss. You're giving for this country. You're sowing seed that this country be blessed, and it's all amiss. Because listen, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You got gay marriage in the whole country. And you haven't had this, I can't stress this enough, you haven't had this situation more than a decade. You've only had this situation 7 months, 7 years. 7 years to this as of today, March 11th, 2023. You have only had this situation 7 years. And now you see the repercussions for it, and repercussions that you cannot ignore. I know you want it. Look. You got your way of thinking, and God has his way of thinking. Let's look at how God feels about this. Look at the country 4 years later after passing gay marriage in all 50 states. You got COVID-19 out of nowhere. And any spiritually seasoned person would tell you that is no fluke, buddy. That is no fluke that you passed gay marriage in all 50 states, and now you have COVID 4 years later. Like I said, you can't act like repercussions for something should have happened when it didn't happen. So we didn't have gay marriage in all 50 states. So everything that happened before we had gay marriage in all 50 states had nothing to do with having gay marriage in all 50 states, because it wasn't gay marriage in all 50 states. So you can't apply the past, in other words, when it wasn't, and say, well, it's always been getting bad. No, you need to take the blinders off and say, okay, let's see what happens. Let's set a egg timer and see what happens now that they got gay marriage. Let's not look at the past at all. Let's not look at none of that at all, because that won't have nothing to do with what happens after. It's going to have something to do with the gay marriage. Now you see what I'm saying? Everything that happens after the gay marriage has something to do with it. It's spiritually speaking, the spiritual repercussions. It has something to do with the gay marriage, not just because it's bad, it's getting bad. You're looking to the past and say, well, it's always been like that. But you can't apply it when we haven't had gay marriage. So in other words, now you got to start looking at the repercussions that happened to this country according to gay marriage, which God does not like. Now you got to start looking at things as, well, that's probably happening because God don't like gay marriage in all 50 states of America. You can't look at it like the past. That's what I'm trying to show you. You can't look at stuff from the past when there was no gay marriage. Talking about it was bad, but it didn't have a gay marriage. So you can't apply what's happening now to then. And it's whether you like gay people or not. I don't make up the rules. I told you, I'm spiritual law enforcement. You can love them and like them all day. God is who he is. Okay? Just like you can like thugs and gangsters all day. God is who he is. You can love gangster music, thug movies, and all of that. You can look like one yourself as a fan of thugs and gangsters, which half of you are only a fan of thugs and gangsters. You're not real criminals. You can love that all you want, but God is who he is, and he's bringing judgment also on thugs and gangsters, whether you like them or not. Now, back to my regularly scheduled program. You got witches and warlocks in the black community. They look like me. They look like you. You cannot go by appearance. You have to, let me tell you this. If you feel or detect that you've been gang stalked, you need to stop looking at people that's giving people the benefit of the doubt. Because in your path. They're not on your tail, but they're in your path. So you can't be saying, oh, that just looks like such a nice girl. She has 2 kids with her. She's gang stalking you. They have no shame. They gang stalking you while she has kids. In fact, she's using the kids to trigger you. Boom. Ow. Oh, whoa. Oh, whoa. She's using the kids to trigger you. They're using their children to trigger you. The gang stalkers are using American children to trigger you all. That's how they working. Listen, man, that's how they think. That's not how I think. That's how they think. And I'm not going to be oblivious to the process of the perspective of others. You can give people the benefit of the doubt and live in a la-la land on cloud 9. That's you. I'm going to be aware of all my enemies and aware of all their tactics, no matter how disgusting they may be. If they're using children, I'm aware of it. I'm not going to say, oh, that's just so bad. I don't even want to think about it, so I'm not going to think they're doing it. I'm not going to think they're doing it. That's just so bad and disgusting. I'm not going to think they're doing it. If they're doing it, they're doing it. And you, as a spiritual soldier, have to adapt to what they're doing. Okay? They're camouflaged, looking just like me and you. They're everywhere, all throughout the public. You'll say, oh, those are just normal people walking down the streets. No, it's not. It's like a movie. It's all staged. You ever watch the movie and you're aware that the whole community is paid people. As you get older, you realize this. When you're young, you don't realize this. When you get older, you realize all the people in the movie, if it's in a neighborhood setting, it's all staged. The people walking down the street, the people doing, at the deli, in front of the deli. If it's a movie, it's all staged. It's all staged. So that's how it is when you're being gang stalked. You go outside and it's literally like a movie. The person on the corner is staged. The people outside with their kids is staged. I don't care how you feel about kids. The people outside with their kids is staged. The kids walking down the street is staged. People in the grocery store with their kids, it's all staged. It's all a staged flash mob. They contact each other. They talk to each other just like flash mobs used to do. And they meet at certain places. The only thing that they're doing differently than flash mobs, but using the same format, is they're meeting where you are. You're the individual that they're gang stalking, and they're flash mobbing you. They're making it an event to be in your path, to be where you are, whether you're going to a store or you're going to a grocery store, wherever it is, they are flash mobbing you. Go look up flash mobs, and you'll see the culture in the history of that. All it is all people using their phones, all on their phones and all on their laptops and tablets and everything. They're using those devices to communicate collectively and meet around your path. That explains why it's all there and all in place. And also, this is the most important foundation also. They're using telepaths and psychics and American government technology to know when you're going to leave. That explains why they have everyone in position. They use psychics, telepaths, witches, and warlocks, and they use American government technology. This explains why they're on your path before you get there. Because you'll say, well, how they even know I was leaving home? Because they already got a network around you. If they're gang stalking you, if they're watching you, they already, including witches and warlocks collectively of America, they already have a network all around your atmosphere and environment. And now you see why I'm defeating that. It's too intentional for it to live. It's too intentional of a cause for them to live. Nobody ain't playing no games. That has to die. And I'm going about it spiritual means. I'm going about it by spiritual means. Okay? Which no one can say anything about. Okay? What you gonna say something about me doing what? When it's not tangible. Ow. Is it tangible? Okay, you ain't got no case then. Boom, ow. A wow. A wow. A wow. You ain't got, what you got? Oh, what I'm thinking? Oh, spiritual things that I'm doing? I'm sorry, bro. In the real world, that's not holding up. That's not holding up, buddy. That's not reason for you to be here. That's for the National Guard, that's for the police, the FBI, the CIA, and everything in between. If you do not have tangible operations, you're illegal, and we're going to handle you the same way we handle the gang stalkers. We're going to handle you by spiritual means. You ain't got no tangible operation, buddy. Unfortunately, in the real world, as far as the real rules and regulations, if I don't have a tangible operation that I'm doing against you, see, I know the law, don't I? I know you hate me. That's good. We're going to take care of you. If you don't have no tangible operations, you're illegal. You're breaking my constitutional rights. See, this is what you need to know, too, for people that's dealing with witches and warlocks and the gang stalkers. They're breaking your constitutional rights. I don't care what they talk about. I don't care what they said about you. If they don't have no crime, they are breaking your constitutional rights. And that's death on the horizon. Now you see what we're dealing with. A whole bunch of people that is breaking the Constitution of other citizens here in America, calling themselves Americans. How can you look yourself in the mirror and call yourself an American, breaking the constitutional rights of Americans? I'm going to do a video about this. Breaking I already have, but I'm going to update on it. How can you break the constitutional rights of Americans talking about you American? Drastic measures and drastic means. Who you think I am, a retarded person? That doesn't work with me. If I don't care about drastic time, drastic measures. Desperate time, desperate measures. I don't care nothing about that. The forefathers of this country did not make a side note. They did not make a side note for desperate times and desperate measures. As far as the Constitution, the forefathers did not make a side note to say, well, in desperate times and desperate measures, you can do a little gang stalking here and there. You can go and put people under illegal surveillance when you Really don't know what's going on. See how much of a dope you are? And you see how smart I am? Ain't I a smart cookie? Aren't I a smart cookie? There's nowhere in the Constitution that says you have a grace period or a intermission window for where you can investigate people who you have no crimes on, who you have no tangible operations on. No, you got to kick rocks. You got to go play in traffic. You have no tangible operations. You have no one talking about tangible operations. You lose, and I win. Ow. And guess what that means? It's like a big birthday cake for me. I'm cooking you up just like a sweet birthday cake, and you can't resist it. You know why you can't resist it? Because you're illegal. Everything you're doing is illegal. Ain't nothing you're doing justified, which means, listen, I don't care what you feel, bro. I don't care what you think about your drastic times, drastic marriages, desperate times. I don't care nothing about that. I don't care. I don't use that principle. Okay? If you were competent, you wouldn't have to put people under illegal surveillance. Now, would you? If you was competent as the FBI, CIA, and military and everything in between, if you were competent, you wouldn't need to put anybody under illegal surveillance and breaking their rights. You wouldn't need to do that, would you? You wouldn't need to break the constitutional rights of Americans if you were competent. So if you're competent, you get the job done. Like me. You see me breaking anybody's constitutional rights? Am I breaking the people that's gang stalking me in my building? Am I breaking their constitutional rights? I'm still beating them without breaking my constitution, without breaking their constitutional rights. Ow. I'm beating all your whole community without breaking anybody's constitutional rights. See the difference between me and you incompetent little worms? I'm doing it all without breaking constitutional rights. See, a real American, let me school you on a real American. A real American prides themselves on the Constitution. Right or wrong? Boom, ow. Any patriot prides themselves on the Constitution. All you little dumb Americans, especially the new young dumb Americans, you think you are American. You ain't American. You know how I know? Because you do not pride. You take no pride in the Constitution. Real, hardcore, bona fide Americans, they defend the Constitution, even at the expense of their own lives. They'd rather die than break the Constitution, because you know why? That sets a standard of breaking the Constitution for everybody. Idiot. You dumb idiot. So see what we have? We have a lot of people who are incompetent, who are breaking the Constitution, breaking the constitutional rights in this country and call themselves American. Hey, listen, man, ain't no real patriot supporting that, buddy. Because it sets a standard where everyone could be subject to having their constitutional rights broken. Boom. So see what we're dealing with? A whole bunch of losers calling themselves Americans, incompetent, unable to do their jobs without breaking the constitutional rights of Americans, which their forefathers would have died before they would have done this. They would have died before they have done this. And you think you're being cool and bad, but you know what? You're no longer American. I'm more American than you. I don't even want to be. I don't even want to be. And I'm more American than you because I know you can't break. I know that what defines Americans and me is the Constitution. Looks like you lost your way, didn't you? Looks like you lost your way on the yellow brick road, didn't you? Yeah, well, hey. Well, hey. You know, you can't have your cake and eat it too, buddy. You can't call yourself an American and breaking constitutional rights of other Americans here. I mean, make sense of that. Running around breaking constitutional rights, we're Americans. No, I'm sorry about your desperate times and desperate measures. But unfortunately, evil is reigning in a way that you can't that you can do nothing about. You can't do nothing about it. See, what the incompetent American has not come to terms with is that evil is now on another level that where you can't do nothing about it. So guess what you do? Well, we're gonna put people under surveillance. All it is the growing pains of a new level of evil. That's all it is. And you can't come to terms with, you can't do nothing about it. You're a control freak. America's a big old control freak. She's a control freak, ow. I should make a song about that. She's a control freak, ow. She's a control freak, ow. Meaning America. She's a control freak, ow. She's a control freak, ow. Well, you got everybody under control, don't you? And see, it's because the evil has become so out of control and chaotic that you feel, what we're gonna do? You know what you should have did? It's a sign of what you should have did in the first place. You shouldn't have took prayer out of school, and you shouldn't have took Christianity out of the community. Because now you're doing incompetent stuff because you don't have spiritual makeup. Oh, that's a 7 hour. Yeah, you don't got, listen, if your police and military in your community was spiritual, you wouldn't have to be breaking the constitutional rights of Americans, because God will be leading you and God will be maneuvering you and navigating you, and you will be getting the darkness out of your community. You know the reason why you know the reason why you got everybody under surveillance and everything? Because you are spiritually incompetent as well. You are spiritually incompetent and naturally incompetent. That's the problem. And your foundation of incompetency is spiritual incompetency. That's what got you in this situation in the first place. So don't try to blame me. Don't try to blame anybody else. You just haven't come to terms with the evil, the levels of evil that's now in your community, and you're a control freak. So all you know to do is put everybody under illegal surveillance. That's how we gonna handle it. We just gonna watch everybody. And the truth is, if you had chose God, if you had chose the Lord, you wouldn't be in this situation where you got everybody under illegal surveillance of some sort or kind. So it comes back to a spiritual inadequacy. You're spiritually inadequate as well. And that's what it is. That's what it is. And that's why I got to do a whole video on, again, I got a campaign about that, about breaking the constitutional rights of Americans and talking about you're American. Now, once again, back to my regularly scheduled program. You got these witches and warlocks in the African American community that you have not detected. They've been working all kind of witchcraft, and you was unaware. Many of you have had family members, many black people, you've had family members that went and worked roots on you. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. That's why you're in the situation you're in. And you wasn't aware of how accessible it is to a bitter, revengeful, player-hating person. They can easily find them a root doctor. All they got to do is ask around. Ask around in the hood. Hey, man, you know what a root doctor at? Yeah, I know about a root doctor. What you want to know about? Why you want to know about a root doctor? Hey, I'm trying to get something done. Hey, well, I know one that she over there on 25th, right over there by the park. The third house by the park. She over there by 25th, third house down from the park. On the same side of the park, 3 houses down. That's where she at. And they done went to that woman's house and put work on you. See, many of you I'm glad I brought this up. Many black people, you have been subject to witchcraft because of your family. They put witchcraft on you. They went to a root doctor, an African American that works hoodoo or voodoo, and probably most likely hoodoo. Most likely they worked hoodoo on you. Bitter people that got bitter in your family, you thought they just let it go. Listen to this very closely. Bitter people that was in your family that you thought just let things go and they just mad at me. You should know black people better than that. See what black people do when it's a family issue, they don't kill you, they gonna put a root on you. That's a 7 owl. Oh yeah. That's what they go do. And you ain't got no preachers telling you about it. That's why you don't know nothing about it. See what black people do when they hate you and you're a family member, they go to a practitioner that either practice hoodoo or voodoo and put a curse on you, put a hex on you, put roots on you. So I'm so glad the Holy Ghost brought this up, because before you can really engage this war between you and those who practice hoodoo and voodoo, you first have to understand that check your genealogy, check your lineage, check your bloodline for people that was bitter against you, possibly people that hated you in your family. Check your bloodline and think about what they've been talking about. And if they ever mentioned anything about putting a curse on somebody and you know they hated you, that's what they did. And that explains your situation. I've been through it. I've been through a family member that was jealous of me because his wife lusted after me, which isn't my fault. She had lustful feelings for me, which wasn't my fault, right? She had uncontrollable lustful feelings about me, and it wasn't my fault. So that created a bitterness in my brother, a blood brother. And he told me himself, hear this part, that he went to a witch coven. Now I told my mom, and I love my mom, but when it comes to higher levels of malicious evil, she dismissed things very easily. She didn't really do nothing about it, say nothing about it. When somebody tell me that a person went to a witch coven with witches, that changes everything. What you think they was doing there? Come on now. What, you thought they was on a field trip? No disrespect to my mom, but do you think they was on a field trip? Going to a witch coven, and they already bitter against the whole family. My brother was bitter against the whole family. Bitter against me. He called my mom retarded, and he shoved my mom with his hand. Pushed her. She told me this. I didn't assume this. I didn't make this up. This is what my mom chose to tell me. He fought my stepdad, got on top of him and held him down, punching him, humiliating a real man. To a real man, that's humiliation. Your son that you seen grow up takes and gets on top of you and hold you down and wails on you. And it's humiliation from my mom. He called her retarded. He pushed her, shoved her in a physically negative way. Whether it hurt her or not, it was a physical negative way, right? Think about somebody shoving their mom in a negative way. It doesn't matter how hard it was, does it? That's what I'm saying. So after he called my mom retarded, shoved her, and got on top of my stepdad, punching him, holding him down, was mad at me, went to the police, telling the police all kind of crazy stuff about me. Or he told somebody, mental hospital people told him something about me. Half truths and whole lies, twisted definitions. You don't think he'll go to a witch coven? You don't think he went to a witch coven to put spiritual witchcraft roots and hexes on us? On my mom, my stepdad, and me? He told me, I'm being transparent and tell you my situation. My brother told me to my face, he went to a witch coven. What you think he was doing there? Why did you think he was there in the first place? Think about it. He's black. He's not into rock and roll. He doesn't have any infatuation with witchcraft. He doesn't have any infatuation with the paraphernalias of witchcraft like somebody that's white might have because they grew up on Ozzy Osbourne and they're just hinted at darkness. I'm not saying Ozzy Osbourne is a witch, but you know what I mean. It was always hints of darkness in rock and roll culture that white people grew up on. So it might be something that they might just be inclined to do, to go to a witch coven. Not a black person. Not a black person. I look at everything. A black person is going there for means of cursing somebody. And he told me, oh, I can kill somebody and get away with it. He told me I could kill somebody and get away with it. God will forgive us. That's what he said. So you think he went to that witchcraft after saying he can kill somebody and God will forgive him, which God won't because you're already attaching God to sin. You putting God in that plan of sin, right or wrong. Oh, I can do this and then I can run to God like a robber taking off their clothes and going somewhere else. I can take off all my clothes and come over here to God. You put God in the plan, the repentance ain't gonna work. Boom, ow. Nah, it's not gonna work. I don't care what no American preacher tell you, because God is not gonna be put in a plan to sin like that. That's how goofy these Americans are. That's how goofy my brother is. Think you can kill somebody and then come to God. You can't put God in no plans like that, bro. You can't put God in no plans like that. And then he told me it's all for success. It's all about success. And then when we talked about enemies, he said, you'll be surprised. That's what he said. Enemies in the spirit world. What that means. Witches, telepaths, psychics, and warlocks, and all of that. So that's who sent it against me. I know that for a fact. So what you have to realize is that people that's in your family, that's where you start first. If you feel like you've been cursed or hexed or any kind of witchcraft, first go to your family. Even if you were innocent, like I was. My brother's wife lusted after me. She had sexual feelings for me. It wasn't my fault. That was his motivation. It wasn't nothing else. That's all it was. He know ain't nothing wrong with me. Something wrong with his wife. Ain't my fault. He been esteemed me as brilliant. He been esteemed me as great. He's been esteemed me as competent and all of that. My mom said, my stepdad said this, my brother loved me more than he loved them. Now, this is the same person that called my mom retarded too. And she's not retarded. So he has this perspective of mutating people. Like something's wrong with everybody. He called my mom retarded, said something, probably something wrong with me. I bet he said that. Everything's wrong with everybody but him. Mm-hmm. And he definitely told me he went to a witch coven. This is how black people get revenge on their own family members. They don't kill them. They don't try to kill them. They try to do a hex so they be killed that way. Mm-hmm. Sisters, if you sisters and you got another sister and she was always jealous of you, and she took the man that you wanted, and she got 3, 4, 5 kids by the man that you wanted. Y'all lived in the same neighborhood And you actually liked him before she did. You met him before she did. And she got him. He liked her more. He liked her more for whatever reason. He might have liked light-skinned girls, and he liked her more. Guess what? She might have put a hex on you, curse on you, just for that reason. And look, the spiritual world don't discriminate. It ain't gonna say, let us think about this. She's just a little jealous right now. If she go and put spiritual work on you, it's in action, buddy. It's in action. It's not gonna say, well, this guy's doing this curse because his brother, his wife lusted after his brother because he was telling jokes. And she got turned on and she said, in front of everybody. They ain't gonna say, well, that's kind of petty. The spiritual world gonna try to put a curse. The curse is gonna come. That curse is gonna come unless you got God with you, like I do. Because everything backfired with me. Everything, because they gave me a virus. They got COVID-19. So basically, and I don't claim to be any way Jesus at all. Literally, I don't. But that was my cross. When they gave me HIV intentionally, when they did that, y'all got COVID on the whole country. I know, they thought I was just a regular case of a virus. I know, it's getting bad, ain't it? Yeah, the truth is coming to the light. When they did that intentionally and put that in my body intentionally, you got COVID-19. Now you see who I am. Now put that together. Now you see who I am. You see the rank I'm on. I've always been that person. That's a 7 owl. Now think about all they've done, including intentionally putting the black community, intentionally putting a virus in my body. That's who was responsible, the black community. They played their part. They played their part and they're aware of it happening. And they're not bringing it out as the truth and the facts. So they concealed it as well. What happened really? You think God playing with people that play with his prophets? And that's why you got COVID-19 less than, October I was diagnosed in 2019, November, December, January. 3 months later, COVID-19 came. You think that's a coincidence? After I was diagnosed with a virus that the black community had their part and position in. That was October 21st, 2019 in Gainesville, Florida. 3 months after that, the White House was informed of COVID-19. November, December, January, and February. By February, 4 months later, you already had your first case of COVID-19, baby. God don't play no games, buddy. You lose. And it was, if I had to do it all over again, it may sound crazy, but I would go through it all over again because this American community collectively opposed me. So how could I get them? How could I get back every single person at a gas station, at a restaurant that gang stalked me all over the country? How could I get them all back? Now you see how God is. You see how great, you see God is the most greatest. How could I get all those people back? Every last one of them. How could I get them? Can't go shoot them all. That's ridiculous. Ain't no way you can do that. You're going to eventually get caught. Eventually. It's just too many humans around, for one thing. There's too many humans around. Somebody's going to see something. And you can be the baddest, you can be the best. There's no way in the world you can physically kill all your enemies. This is another reason people go to witchcraft. But God took care of it. I didn't have to go to witchcraft. God put COVID-19 on your community for you intentionally putting the virus in my body. That's the stripes I had to bear. That's my stripes that I get, the honor I get. for taking that on, taking that virus on. God gave, that's my stripes I got in the kingdom of God. I took that virus and God gave y'all COVID-19. So it all worked out because I ain't had no way to get you all. How could I get you all for all that you've done? Now you see what I'm saying. Look, God works in mysterious ways, bro. He let you do all you did. And it was all a plan to handle all these gang stalkers, witches, and warlocks that played with me all across the country. Boom, ow. Oh, whoa. Oh, whoa. You think you hurt my feelings? How? That's why I want my enemies to know I have not cried one tear for having the virus. God is my witness. I am no liar. I have not cried one tear for having this virus. The whole time. I know you thought I was in here pitiful and pathetic and depressed, suffering from anxiety. Antsy. You thought I was antsy, didn't you? Hey, look, every time I even shed tears was I was thinking about feeling sorry for my position, myself, not because I got the virus. Never. I have not shed one tear at all for having that. I never broke down because God was letting me. You know why I believe most foundationally is because the Holy Ghost strengthened me up to let me know it was a plan. I know. And sometimes when you're the greatest, you gotta get sacrificed and to get the plan done. You see what I'm saying? And that was my way of being sacrificed. And then I gave y'all COVID-19. You got COVID-19 from God after that. So that's why I couldn't cry, because I would do it all over again to see you suffer like that. Hey, you played. Listen, you played with me, buddy. You played and you played and you played. You played with a real good old soldier, buddy, from North Carolina. Listen, the only one goofy is you, man. Whether whoever lives or die, you goofy. And you know what you can't take from me? I am not goofy, and I'm a straight up soldier, buddy. And whether whoever lives or dies, you can't change the fact that you're goofy and I'm a soldier. You can't change that, now can you? It's a little too late. With all this history of goofiness you got going on, and all this history of serious warfare I got going on. Yeah, I've been going to war with these people that playing with me. I've been going to war with them about 4 years now. Yeah, it's real. I remember the time when I went in. And now look at your country 4 years later. 2019 is when I started. Look at your country now, buddy. I don't play no games. Yeah, ain't nothing funny now, is it? Yeah, you ain't laughing now, are you? With that COVID-19, I shut down your whole culture. All these little 20-year-old bubble butt girls, I shut down your whole culture. Ain't none of them laughing now, are they? All them little 20-year-old bubble butt girls, are they laughing now? That's a 7 owl. You ain't laughing now, are you? It ain't a funny thing, is it, now to play with me, is it? Playing no games. For all you beautiful women, you'll be BAD. Yeah, you'll be bad for real. BAD, abbreviation BAD. Beautiful and dead. Ow. Oh, whoa. Yeah, you bad, all right. Abbreviation BAD. Beautiful and dead. All the pretty little women, 20-year-old, 30-something, beautiful and dead. You BAD for real. You bad for real. BAD, abbreviation BAD, beautiful and dead. We ain't playing no games over here, bro. I told you. I ain't playing no games.